A 13-year-old boy. A Grandmaster strength opponent. 82 moves later, chess had a new legend. White opens with the king's knight to f3. Black answers, knight to f6. White plays c4, and black fianchettos the bishop to g7. Knight comes to c3 for white. Black castles immediately, tucking the king away safe. Bishop develops to f4. Black strikes right back in the center with d5. White's queen swings out to b3, hunting for material. Black grabs the pawn on c4. White recaptures, queen to c4. Black plays c6, keeping everything rock solid. Pawn pushes to e4. Black brings a knight to d7. White's rook slides to d1. Knight jumps to b6. And now White's queen lands on c5, feeling very confident. And here's where it gets interesting. Fischer develops the bishop to g4. White replies, bishop to g5. Now watch this, Fischer offers up his own knight on a4. White's queen has to retreat to a3 just to survive. Fischer snaps up the knight on c3. White recaptures with the pawn, and Fischer grabs the pawn on e4 too. Two pieces are hanging in the balance right now. White captures on e7 with the bishop. Fischer brings the queen to b6, attacking. White's bishop swings out to c4. Fischer takes the second knight, on c3. Bishop drops back to c5 to block the check. Rook slams a check on e8. The king flees to f1. Bishop comes to e6. White's queen scoops up the piece on b6, and Fischer answers instantly, check with the bishop on c4. The king runs to g1. Knight checks on e2. King back to f1. Knight grabs the pawn on d4, with check. King to g1 again. Check again from e2. Back to f1. And now the knight checks from c3. The king finally settles on g1. Pawn takes on b6. Queen swings to b4. Rook slides to a4. Queen captures on b6, but Fischer's knight takes the rook on d1. Pawn pushes to h3. And the rook captures on a2. King runs to h2. Knight grabs the pawn on f2. Rook comes to e1. Fischer trades it off immediately. Queen checks on d8. Bishop blocks on f8. Knight recaptures on e1. Fischer brings the bishop to d5. White's knight retreats back to f3. Fischer's knight jumps to e4. Queen to b8. Pawn pushes to b5. Pawn to h4. Pawn to h5. Knight to e5. The king tucks away safely on g7. King to g1. Bishop checks from c5. King to f1. Knight checks from g3. The king runs to e1. Bishop checks from b4. King flees to d1. Bishop checks again from b3. King to c1. Knight checks from e2. King to b1. Knight checks again from c3. King back to c1, and now there is nowhere left to run. The rook lands on c2. Checkmate. A 13-year-old boy just defeated a Grandmaster strength opponent. This is chess's game of the century.